Révision.
Révision.
Révision, toi.
Révision, toi. So today is the apocalypse.
Oh,
in case
God.
anyone was keeping track in their
Why
calendars.
did I decide to spend it with you people?
Yeah, that happens.
See,
So,
I
What
have
happens
one
to
of
all
those-
my pre-orders?
I have one of those Aztec calendars. So do I still have to do this?
They're similar enough.
Are you sure you're not
Yeah.
thinking of your advent calendar?
No, ooh. But it's an
Did
official.
chocolate come out of it when you
Yes,
opened
but
it?
but the Aztecs also like chocolate, and it's an official apocalypto advent calendars because it's Mel Gibson.
That's
he's,
okay then.
He's crazy for
That's
Jesus, but
perfectly
he also
okay.
loves the Aztecs. So.
I'm just picturing him with like his crazy cigar face over like a fine wooden cabinet full of tiny little Aztecs.
yeah, the official apocalypto advent calendar full of Aztec chocolates.
But
Or
it
as
is
they
the end of
called
the
it.
world.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is the end of the world today. Hopefully later.
I hope you guys accomplished everything that you want to do.
Well,
No,
I've
not at all.
definitely been preparing by playing a lot of post-apocalyptic games, and my God, there are a lot of them.
Yeah,
There are.
There are quite a few. Let's name them.
There are two things that we like in video games, and it's space and the world after the apocalypse.
Well, actually, I would say there's space and there's times of nights and magic. And then
Yes.
The sort of side one from that is like, what if it was real life, but it was in the future and it sucked?
yeah.
What if it was real crappy?
Because that's a distinction we have to make. There are a lot of things about like a shitty rundown future, and those are not apocalyptic games. We're talking about post-apocalyptic games, right?
And that's funny because post-apocalyptic games, you've got stuff like you've got Fallout,
Yeah.
you've got The Last of Us, you've got
Rage.
You've got that's on another. Is that on Earth or is that on another planet?
Rage is another
No.
planet.
See, I thought Borderlands
Wait.
initially was post-apocalyptic. That's in a wasteland. That's the
Yeah,
difference.
and that's
it's in
an
a wasteland.
entirely other content.
So for the sake of this, let's just say Rage and well,
I mean,
obviously-
they all kind of fall under the same
Yeah.
umbrella, though, and I
Yeah.
think the reason that they're all popular is because they allow you to kind of operate under the umbrella of Earth or an Earth-like planet,
Right.
while still being able to create, the landscape that you want to create.
It's one of the few settings for games that almost immediately turns me off, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
See, it's one of the
Yeah.
few ones that actually immediately draws me in.
No, I'm kind of.
There are a few
in the middle
things
there, I
like I love the look of The Last of Us, and I think it's just those games that have that like dusty, deserty post-apocalypse. Because I feel
Yeah.
it's kind of like an aesthetic that doesn't appeal to me in movies either. Like I don't watch a lot of westerns
Yeah.
because I can't deal with the flatness of it.
I don't like those either.
There's
It's too orange.
There's a weird thing that happens, and the reason that it's a popular, like you were saying, it's they kind of have the creativity to do what they want because it's like it's in the future.
Yeah, like space.
But at the same time, it's also desolation has a lot of freedom. If you're making a post-apocalyptic movie, you can go out in the desert and shoot where no one's going to yell at you or walk onto your set. If you're shooting in like a downtown city, there are going to be people there, which is the same problem with making, games. Is like if you're like making a city, it's going to be
You've got to
unrealistic.
build that whole city.
Right. So they're like, well, what if we made the city blow up and then we filled it with some zombies? Because the zombies have poor AI, and we can kind of maybe
It's
relax.
true. You
there.
don't need nearly as much detail in like a barren wasteland city as you do if it's like on Earth.
I think the exception to the desolation rule for me is definitely Fallout, and I think it is for a lot of people.
Is the best post-apocalyptic game. It is like I'm not even gonna like stammer or try and pussyfoot around that. It is the best. Fallout 3 is one of my just favorite games of all time, hands down, without question. And pretty much anytime somebody mentions it, I will go back and play it. And I think what's really good about it is that it has so much color and humor. In spite of the fact that it is desolate and dreary.
Well, because I think that it goes back to what you were talking about before, which is if you're making a post-apocalyptic game, it's the easiest thing in the world.
Yep.
It's the laziest, easiest thing in the world to take this empty desert and some monsters and you're good. With Fallout, they actually tried to like craft this world, and there was a lot of wide open spaces, but there was also just a lot of character in every single location, which is the big difference.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Fallout is set a little bit like farther after the apocalypse when things have had a chance to like kind of build up more. But you play like a post-apocalyptic game like I Am Alive.
It's also the future of the 50s.
Yeah, also
yes.
that.
Yeah.
And that adds to the whole like aesthetic to it. But in a game like I Am Alive, which happens like almost immediately after the apocalypse, there's still people around, but like they're survivors, people who are just as in dire straits as you are.
Yeah,
And
there's no rebuilding going on.
And so it creates a spectrum of like kind of really survival-based apocalyptic games and apocalyptic games that just happen to be set in the apocalypse and are more like shooters, which I think is what Fallout kind of falls under.
Yeah.
What's
talking about
interesting-
the survivor stuff, The Walking Dead, which came out this year.
I was about to say, zombie stuff is technically a subgenre of post-apocalyptic, unless of course it is during the beginning of the zombie thing. But in the case of Walking Dead, or to a lesser effect, The Last of Us, so that's funguses. But yeah, it's you've got survivor interactions, which are sort of the more human side, and that's generally more interesting than just the zombie stuff.
And that's why I think for a style, like a more action style like I Am Alive, I think that's why it doesn't work for a lot of people, is because thematically when you're talking about just like a bunch of survivors trying to make it and be alive, you picture them doing more talking, you picture it being more kind of like tension based, you picture it being more interaction.
So I'm Alive is full of tension though. The thing is, like, you're not trying to survive with a group of people, you just happen to run into other survivors who are in the city, and most of them are like dying or dead, and you just have to go like fetch them a med pack or something. But like it does bring up the interesting topic of like how few post-apocalyptic games have co-op, and like just like the sense of desolation that you get from playing them. That's something that I really enjoy, and it's part of the reason that I enjoy playing single-player games, because I don't like playing games that are co-op.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons like DayZ is so crazy popular online, because it is that post-apocalyptic zombie world, and those interactions are just as real and as varied as you would expect.
That's
right?
I'm really fascinated by DayZ, because it's like at a glance, or not DayZ, what is it? I think the War Z actually just came out. And that's the horrible ripoff that is selling well, but people are presumably not too happy with it. DayZ, the one that's the original one, that's so cool because it is such an unforgiving, brutal game that people are actually trying to struggle and like steal from each other and like rip each other off, which is like kind of how it would be, which is it's great. And it's like, you can be creeping through the underbrush really carefully past some zombies because you want to get like a gun or something, and then some guy would run by and be like, "Woo!" and he's just like, "You're just, God damn it," and then the zombies come over, and it's like, wow.
You know what the DayZ thing reminds me of is like the first time I ever traded an item with a person online. I think it was Phantasy Star Online, and there were no rules about trades, right? Like there were no rules. It was just kind of like you drop an item on one side, the other person drops an item on the other side. You got to trust that you dropped the right item, run, and then trust that they didn't screw you somehow, right? And DayZ takes that in too, because it's kind of like, oh yeah, I can help you out, but you never really know.
That fascinates me.
Whereas most online games now, they have that system where it's like, this is a safe trade and everything's gonna be fine, and it's done by us because we're middlemen, and it's like, dude, I really need that food. Okay, well, give me these bullets. All right, yeah, sucker. And that's awesome. That's like a thing about post-apocalyptic games that you don't get in things that are single player, or things that are mostly action based.
I think Metro is another great example of the post-apocalyptic games, and that's why I'm so excited for the second one, because I think the first one, it was good, but I don't think it's like quite a household name in gaming yet. I think Last Light is really going to appear on the map.
THQ is literally giving it out for free.
They're literally, I know. All you have, please just be our friend on Facebook and we will give you this game with the Russian and the werewolves, please.
I'm a little bit afraid that it's going to get overshadowed by The Last of Us, since they are coming out so close to each other.
Everything in the world is going to get overshadowed by The Last of Us. I know,
and you know what? I don't even care at this point, because I know it's going to be good. I just know it is. Something about that game reminds me of I Am Alive also. I don't know what. The Last of Us.
Oh yeah, because they were both announced at around the same time.
No, it's not that. It's like the feel of the game, like having because The Last of Us seems to put a lot of emphasis again on the survival aspects, where like everybody is desperate and will just like kill you for whatever you have. And The Last of Us, like I haven't seen, granted, as much as a lot of people have, but based on the commercials and stuff, it seems to have that very similar feel to it.
What I'm curious about is, do you think that they're gonna? I mean, they've shown off some little snippets of the people fighting off the weird plant things, the gross facers, the fungus people, and it's like that is obviously gonna be part of the game. And I'm wondering if there are gonna be stretches where you're just killing them, where you're just fighting them, or if it's gonna be. And they've shown off the really human stuff where it's like, you have to like hold down the button to choke the man and crush his windpipe, and because they really want you to get the sense of how precious human life is. But what about the fungus people? Are you just going to be like fighting them?
So if you look at the structure of the Uncharted games, and especially Uncharted 3, like you get to the end of the game and then stuff gets weird, right? Like you get to the end of Uncharted 3 and then you're fighting things that are not quite human in that one section. But it's mostly people all the way through. And I think what most people are reacting to about The Last of Us is the human interaction.
I think that game is going to break some hearts.
I think the monsters are going to be like, they surprise you every once in a while. There's probably like a stretch at the end where there's a lot of them and shit gets super real. But I would rather see more people in that game than monsters.
I Am Alive had no monsters. That's what I like about it.
Like 90% people, 10% monsters is what I want out of that game.
That's fair. I think that it would not surprise me, just given Naughty Dog's track record, if The Last of Us wound up being like what The Walking Dead did, except with some more like gameplay.
Yes.
You know, I think that they are very capable as far as like writing and production of like a. I mean, they take with Nathan Drake's a great example. I mean, whether you love him or hate him, they took Nolan North and they like really helped roll him into the character, and it was like that's doing it like a level of complexity to a game that you don't usually see. It's not like, hi, you're the voice actor, read these lines. They were like, okay, let's really try and build him.
I mean, that's something I thought about when I was playing The Walking Dead, actually, is when you get all your interactions with Clem and just like how much you come to care about Clem. And I'm just like, oh God, The Last of Us, when it's really like serious real-time combat and it's me and I've got to look after this girl.
Yeah.
It's gonna get real. Like it's gonna get super real. It's gonna feel super tense.
Yeah, I wonder if I'd be a thing that would be really cool for a post-apocalyptic game, and I don't know if anyone's really trying to do this, but if you took this sort of, if you took like the Iron Man / your people die, you know, the death is a final thing, like from XCOM or from Walking Dead, where it really matters, but then make that a thing that happens with like real time, like so when you screw
that's
up.
something that they tried out in Zombie U, but
yes,
you don't really feel that connection.
Yeah. What I'm saying is take the character and then take the unforgivable, like, because this is the thing is people would probably get really upset by it, but at the same time they'd probably get into it. And if
dude, what if that girl in The Last of Us, what if she could die and the game continued? And it just changed your whole character.
See,
it just changed the world around you.
I mean, that's the thing is like post-apocalyptic stuff.
I don't think they'd go there.
They're not going to go there. But that would be kind of a cool thing. Yeah. You played more Zombie U than any of us. Do you feel any connection to who you are, or do you care? Like,
oh, in the game, no, not at all. I mean, you change characters every time you die. They purposefully do that.
It's like Spelunky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then on the other side, you have what I think is becoming a larger trend in post-apocalyptic games these days, which is having a young girl or a young character, not necessarily as like an escort, but somebody who follows you around for the whole game. I Am Alive had that.
Yeah.
The Walking Dead had that. And now The Last of Us is going to have it. And I think it helps really suck people in emotionally.
It's hilarious because what we keep coming back to is that the best thing in any post-apocalyptic game is human interaction, which is like the first thing people don't put into a post-apocalyptic game. Because it's like...
Because they have to program all the AI, and they got to write it. And they're like, no, screw it, throw in some zombies. Give them some guns or something.
All I'm really taking away from this entire conversation is Zombie U is like Spelunky. Max Scoville, game journalist, 2012, at the end of days.
Just doing my also, just
the very last words that Max Scoville said before the end of days on December 21st, 2012.
Also, I told you
Zombie
guys,
U is like Spelunky.
Earlier I said I had 7 peppermints. There are actually 8 of them here, so.
The Mayans foresaw this, Max.
There, you happy now?
Human interaction is a terrible thing.
Nope.
Peppermint tea.
You.
Am I right? Am I right?